Hello, Ramley and other NFL family. Peo time here with the Rams Radar, and in this video, we are reacting to a segment from the newest episode of the Bootleg Football Podcast with EJ Snyder and Brett Coleman. One of my favorite anything media that I've ever consumed that's Rams related. It's phenomenal. I'll link the full episode in the description below. In this video, though, I'm only going to react to a couple of my favorite parts in this episode. So feel free to watch here, or if you're like, no, I want the original source, you get this Rams YouTuber off my screen. I don't know why you're talking like that, but yeah, that's cool. Anyway, feel free to like, subscribe, all that stuff. Let's get into it. The first clip I'm going to look at here, they're talking about Davante Adams fit with Puka Nacua.
Adding another veteran, very savvy receiving threat who I think is a hand-in-glove fit. We'll talk about Devonte Adams and what he brings to this offense. They wanted to have that threat last year, but again, they didn't have guys healthy. They didn't want Puka to be the only guy that was threatening in that way. When you add another, not going to say equal, but scary threat on the other side, you can take advantage of those linebackers sucking up towards the offensive line more quickly, more often. And again, McVay wants to do that. It's not that it wasn't in his head last year. It's that he didn't necessarily have the guys healthy on the field to do it. And if Davante Adams stays healthy, and Puka does too, defenses aren't going to be able to have the right answer.
Yeah.
Because if you can lock Puka down, Davante's still going to get yards. He is well capable of doing that, has been for a long time. And he feels rejuvenated, which is one of those things you get when we'll talk about the coaching staff and why players get to Los Angeles and go, oh, we saw it with Baker Mayfield, right?
Yeah.
Baker Mayfield said, getting here made me enjoy football again. I was in a place where I really wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
And I have a feeling Davante Adams feels a little bit like that after his last couple of years. And you can see that in camp, he is excited. Puka is leaning on him. He understands what he brings. So it's not that they didn't have these plans, but they might have even more pieces to be able to do it. Because if you cover Puka, Davante's going to get his. If you manage to cover them both, Kyren Williams is going to run right through your face.
Dude, if you manage to cover them both, you're the greatest defense of all time. Like you mentioned earlier, if you lock Puka down, I was like, that's a big if.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's a huge if.
Nobody's been able to do it so far. So again, if you get past step one, which you probably won't, you need to go to step two, which is a guy that's probably going to get Hall of Fame consideration, even in a very crowded receiver stack. And by the way, if you, again, drop into 8 deep to try and fool Matt Stafford, good luck with that. He's seen everything 3 times over at this point. Kyren Williams is going to run you the hell over with that massive offensive line. There's no good answer, and that's what Sean McVay is trying to build.
I'm just going to pause it here. I love hearing this. Again, as a Rams fan who just is a huge fan of the team, I'm not like an amazing football analyst or anything like EJ or Brett here, but I love hearing about the complexities of roster building, of what the Rams are going to try and do on offense. And if this works, guys, if you're watching this Rams offense can put up points. And I've been saying this ever since they signed Devonte Adams. I feel like the red zone efficiencies that sometimes stalled out for the Rams the past 2 seasons are going to get fixed. I think this, between Kyren Williams, between Devonte Adams and Puka Nacua and Higbee come back healthy and drafting Terrence Ferguson, if as long as health is there, this offense is going to finish drives, right? And I think there were so many times the Rams the offense just sort of stalled out in the red zone. They settled for 3 or there was a turnover or something. I really think that this is something that McVay and Snead have prioritized fixing. And with signing Devonte Adams, that is going to be one of the biggest things in this here. And anyway, we'll keep listening. I'll keep talking afterwards.
Let's get into the Rams power structure and the people.
Okay, so this is the part where they're talking about the Rams organization as a whole. And I find this really interesting. I'm fascinated on the coaching structure and just how kind of Rams leadership goes about building this team. You'll note that they do say in this episode that on coaching, there is no salary cap. And I find that something I never really considered in the NFL, that some teams probably invest more money in coaching than others. just because of the resources. And I think the Rams are one of those teams that maybe spend more on coaching than other teams do, which gives them an advantage.
Who have built one of the better rosters in the NFC.
If you want to talk about versatility and the ability to pivot, we talk about that in the player sphere all the time. It's equally important in the front office sphere. And Les Snead was, the original fuck them picks guy. They've changed that strategy radically over the last 3 years to adjust to where the Rams are post Super Bowl, post Super Bowl salary bubble. Sean McVay is right there with him. That handshake between Les and Sean is one of the strongest in the NFL. And it's one of the reasons the Rams continue to be a fascinating watch and a good product on the field as well.
Definitely.
In terms of coordinators, the assistant head coach and pass game coordinator is Aubrey Pleasant. I put him at the top of the assistant coach list because of that title and because Sean McVay was the guy, if you remember, even pre-Super Bowl for the Rams. If you took an elevator ride with Sean McVay, you got hired as an offensive coordinator the next season.
I'm just going to pause there for a second from EJ talking. Yeah, so right here, Aubrey Pleasant and Michael LaFleur and Chris Shula. I could see a scenario if the Rams have as good of a year as I think they're going to. I think Pleasant going to be a head coach. LaFleur going to be a head coach. Shula going to be a head coach. These three guys, I really thought that Chris Shula was going to become a head coach pretty quickly when he got to be a defensive coordinator with the Rams. Michael LaFleur, I also think, is someone who is going to get an opportunity to be a head coach at some point. Aubrey Pleasant, I could see it, right? And if you remember preseason last year, for the third preseason game, Sean McVay actually let Aubrey Pleasant be the head coach for that preseason game. And so I think all three of these gentlemen, if they have a big year here with the Rams could be looking for some new coordinators. And thankfully, the Rams are an organization that have been able to find coaching talent. And I have a lot of faith in this group. And it's exciting going into the season with expectations. It's exciting going in with a coaching staff you believe is competent. They're going to put players in the best position possible to succeed. And I'm so stoked for this season, and this is so cool.
Like within the first 3 days of the hiring cycle, the guy that he has running his pass game is always going to be notable, and that is Aubrey Pleasant. Yeah. The offensive coordinators, Mike LaFleur, defensive coordinator, Chris Shula. Again, these are all NFL names, right? LaFleur, Shula. And that whole McVay, Shanahan, Kubiak, LaFleur, I'll just call it a cabal, right? They all just hang out together. They're all from the same. It's hard to say tree, right? Because you could say, oh, it's the Shanahan tree or it's the Kubiak tree or whatever. It's not really a tree. It's just like a little forest, and they all exist within it. They all hang out together in the off season.
That's a good way of putting
it. Our pal Jordan Roderick did a tremendous series last year about 4 of those head coaches that all sort of just sit together and feed off each other and understand each other and have for a long time. They've all worked together as they've come up. And I think Sean McVay does as good a job as cultivating or continuing that tree as any of them. In terms of notable coaches on offense, Alex Van Pelt is the senior offensive assistant, the highly tenured.
Yeah, this is one of my favorite parts of this entire episode because they give love to your assistant coaches. And check out here, especially when they talk about Zach Cromer.
Alex Van Pelt, former Pitt quarterback who's had so many stops since then, it almost seems like negligent to list that, but that is where he came from. Ryan Wendell, the offensive line coach in charge of all these massive guys who are blowing you off the ball. Eric Yarber, the wide receivers coach. When you talk about Devonte Adams coming and saying he feels rejuvenated, you talk about Cooper Kupp being a Triple Crown winner and Puka's development, you have to look at who the wide receiver coach is, and it's Eric Yarber. And then Zach Cromer is the assistant offensive line coach, and yes, that is another NFL name. Aaron Cromer is his dad.
And the Cromer name is gold in the offensive line community.
I love that.
Yeah, currently in charge of the Bills offensive line. Saw Aaron last year, looked over at offensive line masterminds, and I was like, that's Aaron Cromer. And he's just sitting there taking it all in, and everybody's coming up to him. You can always tell who's got respect in that room because it's full of Hall of Famers, current All-Pros, college stars that are going to be super high draft picks. Like, it is a loaded room. There's about 300 guys in there. About 250 of them are offensive linemen. And you can always tell who commands respect in that room by who comes up to whom. And there was a line of, former players he'd coached and just people that wanted to meet Aaron. He wasn't seeking out any attention. He was literally in the back of the room with his arms crossed. And people just kept coming up to him over the 2 days and being like, hey,
so I was mixed up.
Hey,
That's
coach, good to see
brother.
you again. And I was like, yep.
I was mixed up. That's Zach Cromer's brother, Aaron Cromer, but they've still got the NFL last name, and excited to have him on the Rams coaching staff.
There's a lot of respect there for Aaron, and so hopefully Zach can be the coach his dad is, because his dad is a tremendous coach.
His dad, not his brother.
By the way, if you ever want to feel like a very small human being, go to OLM.
Yeah, it's
like
very
I'm
rare.
6'2", 230, and
I'll leave it there. I just wanted to react to that clip of it. I go watch the full episode. It's way better than with out me in the picture. But I really appreciate the Bootleg Football Podcast, especially here in the off season when they do these deep dives on the Rams, on other teams. I listen to each and every episode. Brett and EJ, two of the best doing it on the platform. And I think one of my favorite parts about this time of year is just there's so much hope, optimism, setting expectations for your team. Like no NFL fan, no sports fan wants to go into the season being like, yeah, this could be a rough year. I've had that before. I remember the 2009 Rams and like the 2010 Rams and the 2011. And anyway, we don't talk about those days anymore. We have hope. We have a future. We have a good coach. We have a good quarterback. We have some weapons on offense. We have a defense that's ready to get after the quarterback. Like any team has its question marks, but I think that if the Los Angeles Rams can stay healthy, and if they can be the team that that lives up to their potential and beyond, this is a team that's ready to win some football games, and they're ready to maybe do something historical here. So let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Feel free to like and subscribe, all that good stuff, and make sure you go check out the full episode of Nobody Wants to Play the Rams on the Bootleg Football Podcast. As always, go Rams, horns up, and peace out. Let's go Rams.